Thank you for staying with us here on Joy 99.7 FM, 15 minutes after 1 here in our studios in Kukumlemle. If you're tuned in, you're on 99.7 or via myjoyonline.com, or else you are streaming via our Facebook page, Joy 99.7 FM. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is the Joysports track. Coming up today, we'll be checking out what Kurt Okreku thinks about the future of the GFA. If you didn't listen to him on Newsfile, a couple of pertinent stuff he said, we'll be playing it back to you. Also, we'll be speaking to Alhaji MND Jaula Delepo Ra about the election, but more importantly about the future. Then we come to the studio and look at the small matter of the vice presidency. It's such a crucial decision the Executive Council will be taking. And as you know, it's a position that's by election, not by appointment. First of all, is that rule even good? Is it good that they are going to elect the vice president? Why not let the president choose his own vice? We look at the merits and demerits of that decision, which will have political ramifications. And of course, we look at the people involved in that race. Who are the front runners? Who are the dark horses? A bit of analysis and what each candidate brings to the table from now with my panel till 2. Stay with us here. But first of all, we hear from the newly elected Ghana Football Association president on Friday, Kurt Okreku. He was on Newsfile with Samson Ladi Ainine on a couple of issues. Let's hear him now.
I think that the happenings of yesterday clearly gives all of us the momentum to ensure that we bring everybody concerned or connected to our industry together, and to ensure that we take our game to the level that it deserves. In saying this, let me be grateful and thankful to the President of the land, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, the Sector Minister, Honorable Isiama, members of the Football Association, the NC's President, the outgoing NC's President, and the membership, all clubs and stakeholders who were part of this amazing process. I think that yesterday I made a clarion call for all of us to come together. Football is a team sport. What that means is that no single individual can navigate us out of the troubles that we find ourselves and take us to the promised land. That's why I put a team together to do the campaign. That's why I encouraged everybody to come out with a manifesto via our manifesto launch. That's why I went out of my way to say kudos to Georgia Free, Amanda Clinton, Georgia Kuma, Nanayawa Ponsa, Fred Papo, and my own brother, Osei Palmer. We need everybody on board. We all have quality, and I absolutely believe that there's quality in Ghana here, in the football industry, for which reason we have to come together, harness the qualities that we all hold, and make sure that we lay a solid foundation for a big takeoff. We have promised to ignite passion and to create wealth for everybody, and to do that, we want to ensure that the fundamentals are right. And this is what we have promised, and this is what we intend to deliver.
Okay, so you talk about the foundation, and Lepo Jawula spoke to us a while ago, also talking about foundation. Bekubako just spoke a while ago. It does appear very apparent that people are clear that you are going to build from the scratch. Now there are people in the football who are saying a number of things, which is what appears to happen all the time. How are you going to break away from the tradition that kept us down and so unproductive? The tradition includes that you have won. Most likely people will say the expectation is that within the fraternity, you will bring your own people, loyalists, rather than look for people who have the expertise. And that will not take us anywhere. What are your plans?
Well, I think that by and large, I have demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that I believe in quality. And so do the President of the land. I believe in bringing people with different qualities, different opinion positions together to be able to build. And at the basics, I've shown that with my Dreams FC project. I also showed that with the MTN FA Cup. But this journey is totally quite different from what we are talking about anyway. I'm a team player. I believe in harnessing all the intellectuals we have in this country, and to ensure that we are able to build an industry that will be the envy for many, many people, not only in Ghana, but beyond the shores of the country.
Okay. Now, finally, let me share with you Gary Al Smith of Joysports. He has got a list of 10 things that he believes should engage your attention. I'm sure you have already spoken about some of them, but I'll just read them to you and ask you what your views are about Gary Al Smith's must do immediately for your attention. Number one, he says you have to manage expectations, create a perception around football that will make the nation fall in love with the GFA, fall in love with the GFA again, unify all factions, bring knowledgeable opponents into the fold, get domestic competitions underway immediately, sponsors or no sponsors, you must move now. Conduct an integrity ethics training for players, referees, influential supporters groups, and the media. Number 5, formulate a strategy to engage the government on national teams to be clear on its duties and obligations. Number 6, educate regional football associations on competition management. A national culture of professionalism begins at the grassroots. Number 7, roll out your manifesto promise to make the Ghana Premier League autonomous as soon as possible. Number 8, improve the working conditions of GFA staff. And he says this is key to motivate them to be ethical, so that they don't get caught by another anas. Now 9 says find a permanent general secretary quickly, preferably one with good experience in managing football. This person will ensure football runs free of agitations. And finally, make a decision to sack or maintain Kwesi Appiah. His contract expires in December. What do you say?
Well, I think that listening to you clearly tells me or confirms what we've always believed, that there's a lot of work to be done. Most of the points or the challenging points that you raised are clearly also found in the manifesto that we rolled out in the last few weeks. So it tells you that we have been engaging the right people, and clearly with the support of the other members on the Executive Council, I think we have a lot quality. We have people with the right levels of knowledge and capacity to help me to navigate through this journey. Okay. I think that we are ready to deliver. Again, we want to deliver on promise. We would produce an industry that will be the envy of many. The journey begins from today. We're going to engage ourselves and to ensure that we have a smooth take off. Ghana football will rise again. That's the promise. Ghana football will rise again. And you campaign on the theme as a game changer and someone who is going to create wealth. When you look in the crystal ball in just some 30 seconds, how long will it take us to climb back to the status that we were in international football, in the international football arena, talking about GFA leadership going that high as Kwesi Nyantakyi did? How long will it take us? Well, I think that it depends on the level of, so to say, or it depends on how we're going to start. We need to start on the right foot. We have 4 years to execute our manifesto and to ensure that the game comes back alive again. The next 2 weeks will clearly define the way we're going to navigate all of us to the promised land. But I've said on numerous platforms that when the fundamentals are weak, lies will expose you, okay? And we want to ensure that the fundamentals are strong or become strong. And in the next few days, we will clearly engage ourselves, meet, and hopefully take the right and appropriate strategies. What's the first thing you are doing when you get to the office on Monday? Sorry? What's the first thing you are doing when you get to the office on Monday? I'll say good morning to everybody. reassure the staff that
All right.
we are in together.
Okay.
We have a promise to deliver, and that promise will be delivered with their support.
Okay.
Joy 99.7
New GFA President Kese Okreku speaking there in his first official interview since, being elected, and that was with Samson Ladi Ayenine on News File on Saturday, your most authoritative news analysis program. Also on that show was Alhaji MND Jaula de Lepora, and as you heard Samson reference, he had spoken to him before Kurt came online. He spoke to him about a couple of issues, including the future also. We'd like to play that back because we think it's pertinent.
Not exactly so. I look at whatever happened from the political level. I look at people like Dr. Obin. I look at people like Randy.
Okay, so just to give you some context, Samson asked Leporua what he thought of the Executive Council elections and the people who had been, put forward and nominated and given the job, and so that's what he's talking about.
Not exactly so. I look at whatever happened from the political level. I look at people like Dr. Obin. I look at people like Randy Abbey and other people, Aki and so on, who are also very strong with the clubs as well as Rajamaku and the rest. Randabi might have been there a while, but he's a young man. His ideas are fertile, and I believe that, as my people say, they won't just say that the strength of the ram is in the waist. So these are the people that will make the difference for people. He will listen.
So it is true to say that persons like Randiabe, even though they were in and they have been part of the process, they, belong to a different crop because they were known to be, the radicals amongst them. They were known to be the ones who were a bit non-conformist and even criticizing the organization that they were working for themselves. So there's no any room for entertaining any fears that we are likely to go back to the same old ways that was so unproductive.
No, we shouldn't expect any fears. The only thing one would say at this stage is that who needs to look at everybody dispassionately and knock off all prejudice. Because if you come if you come on the stage and I'm talking experience with any prejudices and think that Mr. A or Mr. B has had something against me, or during the campaign Mr. A or Mr. B said this or that against me, you are not going to get anywhere. Then you are just going to spend all the time fighting like President Trump is fighting on a daily basis. You've got, I know you have laughed a bit, I know.
Yeah.
You've got to make up your mind that you are going to work with everybody, past and present, including past FA president.
So Kreku made that promise that he was going to call on Fred Papodems, and he mentioned a number of people that he will be falling on for advice. And
especially Fred Papo. Fred Papo didn't perform well. I was so surprised. I met him at Congress. I said, Fred, give me the chance. I will make you the FA president over everybody any day. But this is an election, and the Electoral College is going to think quite differently. And therefore, don't get discouraged. Don't run away. If something goes wrong, just stay and continue to do whatever you can.
So, Kurt campaign on the theme and slogan "Game Changer." What do you expect to change? Will anything really change? What must change?
Well, let's be honest. Elections have catchphrases, game changer, that among catchwords, creation of wealth. Well, these are all beautiful things to say. yes, the game that can change, in my opinion, should be at the grassroots. If you can change systems, for us to look back at the Ghana League some years ago, what it was before, the difference between the Ghana League and like the league in Barcelona or the league in Manchester, etc., is the fact that our numbers have diminished on the field of play, and all these other ones still have crowds. And it's the crowds that make the what the people call the ambience. People call the ambience.
All right.
It's the crowds that make football tickle.
Right.
We're thinking of days that we had a Mensa as chairman of Atati Kotoko, or the days that we had Hadizako as chairman of Accra Sobok.
Right.
And the days I was myself chairman of ITU, and the crowds that we brought to the stadium. That was the football. These are the days I'm looking to. And if Kat is listening or will listen, he should do whatever it takes to bring some of these old people on board who can assist him with advice that can bring the crowds back to the field.
But is that particular task not a very difficult one in these days, because times have changed? When the clubs were formed on the basis of a community and they were owned by a community, so the support was somewhat guaranteed. These days, we understand the clubs are formed by individuals, and more purposely, they do it so they can raise players and, sell them for money. So it's an individual's club and not a community's club.
That is one way of looking at it. But the individuals also have the wherewithal to get two forms of support. One from the government or from the state, and secondly, from the media, people like you, people like Kokupako and the rest, who, when they go on radio, can say things that can move thousands of people onto the field of play. If we begin to garner media support to get people back to the pitch, then it could make a difference. I was commissioner only 2 days ago in Cairo between Zamalek and the team from Senegal, and it was quite exciting.
Okay.
Why am I saying it? Not about the crowd that came to the field. It was on a cold evening, but the fact that these were clubs playing within the continent of Africa, and for that matter, these were players who are playing within the jurisdictions of their various countries. And I tell you, the standard was very high. And some of the Zambia players play for the Egyptian national team. Some of the Generation Foot players play for the Senegalese national team. And therefore, if we could continue to have part of our House of Folk field players of that nature at that high level, then one would say that at least people who go to the field just look at the players. People
all right.
go to the stadium sometimes in those days, just look at Abedipele or Jamokwe or Alanikomo or Momecho.
Yeah. I mean, the names you mentioned bring fond memories, even for those of us who, don't have any particular interest in football. Yes, they used to bring a certain sense that everybody wanted to, have something to do with football, get to follow the game. So obviously, you are very hopeful, but you are setting that we are on a path, a commencement of a path to reviving the beautiful game. Is that correct?
That is what I'm talking about. I know a lot has happened, and as I'm here, my nephew, and all the things that went after that and so on, I know a lot has happened, but I know that is not our focus for now. We want to get our football back on track.
Right.
And let's start it from the grassroots. Let's start it seriously for the grassroots. Let's start seeing change. So the game changer the coach is thinking about, not about it. You think about bringing a change on the field on the field that will have intelligent players coming. All these great players are still hanging around in Boku, in Kwa, in Kumasi, in Tamale, in Ho, Hohoi. All these players hanging around there.
Right.
If we are able to keep them in Ghana for a while, I think our football will begin to make sense. Because there's this new striker there's this new center defender, there's this new midfielder, there's this new goalkeeper, and people will flock just to go and see one player, and it's going to make a difference.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Leperua, MND Jaula speaking there to Samson Ladi on Saturday on the News File. So 2 interviews to give us, a sense of how we are moving into the new era of game-changing situations. This morning I saw another interesting artwork from the GFA, the Ketokrigu campaign team. They are in the final days of being in the campaign team. They are just rounding up, as we like to do here at Multimedia. You have the pre-event, during the event, and then the post-event, activities. And so they are wrapping up nicely. And I saw an artwork that said, it's time to begin the game. It's time for the game to change. Yes, I saw that artwork this morning with a few touches of the Ghana flag there, a red, a yellow, a green, and a black. And they are written #GameChanger with his social media handles there. Somebody who was integral throughout the Ket Okreku campaign team is in the studio with us. He's a spokesperson, and he's Henry Asante Chum. Now, somebody may be asking, why are we still dealing with campaign people when we are moving into a new dispensation, and we should be talking, on a general unified basis? You would understand in a bit. But thank you for joining us here.
My pleasure, Gary.
Yeah, George Ado Jr. is also the spokesperson of the Joysports campaign team. George, thank you very much.
No gimmicks. No gimmicks.
Gimmick song. Thank you very much, George, for joining us.
Give me some.
Yeah, so, we are bringing you here as, in your capacity as a spokesperson, just for you to give us a brief insight before we move on to where we are going. How the campaign team pulled it off, because we tried to do a lot of analysis, after on Friday. Yeah. On First Take. I did my own written analysis.
Sure,
I'm sure
I
you
saw
saw.
it. Yeah.
But give us a sense of what it was like inside the Ketokriku camp.
Well, thank you once again. I think that the most important thing is that he saw the need to bring a team of people together to work with him. And so he assembled these individuals by, first of all, speaking to them, to engage them, for them to understand exactly what he wanted to do. So he called them one after the other. I can tell you that he spoke to more than 15 people. Yeah. In the end, he settled on, I think, 7.
Informal interviews.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then he also decided to include his own. When I say his own staff. Myself, Aminu, Shadow, Derek Okraku, we work for the club. But, it got to a point when he thought he would also need our expertise. And so he needed to tap into that expertise. And so he brought us on board. So we had our first meeting.
And let's be, clear, because you know him best.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we can tell a better story.
Yeah, sure.
And so we had our first meeting. And then at the meeting, he introduced Alaji... why do I forget this man's name every time? Jones Alasan Abu. It's because the name, the arrangement of when the name. Alasan, you seem to forget. So he introduced Jones Alasan Abu as the chairman of the campaign team, and then also he introduced Mr. John Ansa as the head of operations. That Michael Osekra will be in charge of the organization and the general meetings. Sure. And so he called him the chief of staff. And Patty, the owner of Young Wise, was named as the operations manager, deputy operations manager. Albert Kome obviously will be supervisor for the media team. And then Odro Safo was also introduced as the deputy chief of staff. Now, because of relationship, because he has been in this football business with some people that he can trust, and he has worked with over a period, he decided to also bring on board the president of Dreams FC, Alaji Gigi Muhammad Alifo. Sure. And he will be the link between the club and then the industry, because he also has that face. He has been around from the days of Abu Sudonko, Alaji Bimbo, and so he will be the face between the club.
Oh man, goosebumps!
And then
I'm just getting goosebumps.
And the public. And he also decided to include one man who would liaise between the campaign team, our message, and then the Zongo community. And so he named one Alaji Cliff as the man who will be between the liaison officer as sort of
the conduit. Right?
So when we go to the Zongo communities, we had somebody to engage the people, and it was quite okay. So we had a series of meetings. We needed to work on manifesto. We had to work on the profile of the candidate. We needed to engage football people. We had to speak to club owners. It was very difficult. Now, finally, when he decided to contest, then we were thinking about how to make the announcement. So we realized that we released a video.
So let me tell you what happened. We were getting ready for this show on a Monday.
Yeah.
And we had decided on what to do. And then around 12:30. 12:15, 12:30.
We decided to release a video at midday.
At midday, yes.
Strategic.
The video came out, and then it changed the course of our program.
Of your show, wow.
Yes. Because it was,
because it was big.
Because it was
something people were waiting for, actually.
Yes, because of the timing for the news cycle. We're able to play it on midday sports bulletin around 25. I think Redwan played it, and then we had to discuss it. We spoke to somebody from your team and so on. To what extent do you think the timing of his announcement was? Why did he choose that time? Because many of us knew that he would, but why did he choose that time as the right time to announce that he wanted to run for the presidency?
I think the timing was crucial, and you are asking why. Why? Because he had done his research, he had done his homework, he had engaged the people, and he knew the grounds actually needed him.
Okay.
And this is something, it was a painstaking research. We went throughout the country, went every corner to speak to club owners. Even those, I tell you what, Gary, there were people we engaged at the very beginning who told us in the face straight away that we wouldn't vote for you. Yeah. I mean, there were several.
Sure.
I am not in the position to mention names.
But it's great.
But that is the beauty of absolutely. That is the beauty of democracy.
Yeah.
That somebody can look into your eyes and speak truth and say, "Look, I like you, but I won't vote for you." But you know what? The beauty of it all is that 2 days, 3 days to the elections, some of these guys called to say, "Charlie, you have been able to convince me, and you have my vote."
Sure.
And we sat in the last meeting Thursday. We finished the meeting around 3:15, and the morning of Friday, and we could put a finger on these people who rejected us at the very beginning, who had come back to say, you kept on pushing, and now I have come into your camp.
Nice one.
So the timing was crucial, and so once we knew the grounds needed him, and he had spoken to the people, and he now understands the challenges facing club owners, we decided to make it official, because there is a particular club owner in this country who said, if you don't contest, I won't give my vote to any candidate.
Okay.
And we got that feedback when we went around the country to speak to club owners. So we decided to make the official announcement, and that was also a big deal.
Yeah.
What do we do? Should we call Gary or George and say, give us platform at Joy FM for us to break that news? What do we do? And there was contest of ideas. So finally we said, but we have a studio at Dreams FC.
Yeah.
We have a strong media team. We have a cameraman. Why don't we record?
And you have your own TV station called Facebook and Twitter.
So you see, so why don't we just record?
It yourself?
And so finally the decision was that we need to think about all the various markets.
Yeah.
So we recorded one in English, one in Hausa, one in Ghana, and then Akan.
Yeah.
So that at least we will serve all platforms.
Yeah.
And even our brothers who broadcast in Hausa had something to chew on.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty. So once we decided and we knew, okay, the grounds would accept us, let's test the waters, then we made the official announcement.
So moving forward, and again, I don't want us to dwell too much in the past, but the questions I'm asking you are leading to something, especially how he would handle the FA.
Absolutely.
There's something that Fred Papo in particular said that struck me as obvious. I'm yet to do that piece, but maybe I would. Why Keto Okraku won? And again, it just struck me right now that you said Okraku. His name is not Okraku.
Okraku.
It's not Okraku.
It's a Kropon name.
Okraku.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Fred Papo said in his congratulatory message that he was blown away by Kurt's attention to detail.
Yeah. He pays attention to excellence.
And that is what, for me, was the game-changing element in the campaign.
Yeah.
George and I were speaking about an unrelated matter.
Yeah.
about organization of some of the other candidates, and we thought that his attention to detail is what stood him apart. Indeed,
absolutely.
I mean, if you be honest, he was not the front runner at certain points in the election. So this attention to detail, how has it helped the campaign, and how does he intend to bring it into managing Ghana football?
The presidential aspirant at the time never chaired a meeting. He wants to take part in the discussion. I could count the number of times he chaired meetings. He wants Mr. John Ansan to chair the meeting. He wants Albert Kome to chair the meeting. Sometimes Jones Alassane Abu will chair the meeting. There were occasions where Aminu will even start the meeting before he joins in. And listen, when you take the minutes, he wants to go through the minutes after every meeting.
There were minutes.
Yes. Yes. We had meetings in his house early Saturday morning, 6 a.m. And you have to be there before 6 a.m. Because if you don't get there before 6 a.m., you can't take part in the meeting. He pays attention to detail. 6 a.m. is 6 a.m. If it is 3 hours, after 3 hours, you are all dispatched. You go back to your various locations or roles or whatever. And when he is in the meeting and he assigns roles, immediately when the roles are assigned, he expects you to get down to business.
Follow-ups, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you don't, he will pick up the phone himself and do the job.
How far?
He wants to, and he needs feedback every minute. I ask you to do this. Have you done it? What is the feedback? I sent you here. What is the feedback? He is always on the ground with you. And this is a man who believes in the getting the shoulder to the wheel. And he wants to be with you. Sometimes
get his hands dirty.
Absolutely. Sometimes when there is, breaking news for Dreams FC, for instance, and the media team is delaying in releasing the news, he goes ahead to publish on his Facebook page. Yeah. And he said, why? Do people think I have lost my GIG certificate? No, I am still a journalist.
Sure.
And he constantly reminds you of the fact that you can't succeed without being organized.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. Gary, we had meetings, and we close the meetings at 12 midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And especially the 3 days leading to the elections, we had countless meetings that would last for 4 hours. And because he's a man of the grassroots, you have people who call to give us information. So sometimes in the middle of the meeting, he receives a message and said, I will be back. Mr. Ansan, take over. He goes to work, comes back. Sometimes he wants to get it done. He will call one or two people and say, come with me. We need to go and see this man. We need to go and see that man. So that attention to detail is what actually set him apart.
Yeah.
And he wants and he's also a man who listens to advice. Whatever opinion you have, just call him, send him a text. He will get back to you. Right. If indeed he believes it is George who can get him that person, he doesn't mind holding your hands and taking you to the fellow.
Right. Harry, next question. And this is one that I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience have been worried about, we journalists in particular. I mean, to what extent do you personally, because you are a journalist yourself, and but you're also a media practitioner, and you are a communications person. So you do corporate communications, and then you do journalism as well.
Absolutely.
To what extent do you think that the blurring of roles? You are a journalist, a professional. You work in a media house, but you are the spokesperson of a GFA presidential candidate. Yeah. How do you reconcile those two things? Because we had a lot of our media friends who were openly campaigning.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I think I don't think I hosted any of the candidates.
Sure.
And even the day he came to my station, I didn't do the interview.
Sure.
Because I realized there is conflict of interest. So if I have an interest, why do I sit behind the microphone? I recused myself. I allowed a different person to do the interview. It got to a point when people will not even come to my show because they feel I am a Ket Okraku boy.
Yeah.
And so they refer to, Henry, Ket Okraku's boy.
Yeah.
And I didn't bother that much because I was not biased. I met candidates and I spoke to them as a journalist.
Yeah.
And I was able to do away with my bias. Mm-hmm. They will look at you as a Ket Okraku boy. Yeah. But I, in my mind, knew I was doing a professional job. Yeah. So the debates, for instance, I was tweeting, and I also recorded the tweets. Sorry, the
voices,
the voices and the contents that came from the other contestants. I did not solely focus on my candidate, even though I had that bias. Just that you never know. It was unpredictable at the time. You couldn't predict if it will be George Free or Amanda Clinton or lawyer George Ankuma Mensah or even or Danaya Wamponsa. So you needed to have that balance, and even though Gary will know he is for George, I had to do something to prove to Gary that I am neutral.
Sure.
In my meetings, I deal with my boss or the candidate Kate Okraku, now president. But when I come out, I put on my professional cloak. Yes.
Nice one. So let's use the last 10 minutes, George, to talk about the interesting issue. I mean, once you are the spokesperson of the campaign, what are you transitioning into right now?
Okay, so yesterday we were in Kumasi to watch the Kotoko game, and when we came back, we had a short meeting. Now the transition to the campaign team. We are wrapping up.
Okay.
Because now he belongs to the FA.
He belongs to Ghana.
He belongs to Ghana.
Yeah, FA Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana FA.
So he's now a property of the Ghana Football Association. So I have no business going to the GFA because I am spokesperson of a game changer, whatever.
Yeah.
Our job ended the very day he was elected and sworn into office.
Sure.
But we are still around him because there is the need for mop-up. There is the need for us to officially hand over. So the chairman of the campaign team, Alhaji Abu Alhassan, is working on that. We are all we need to go back to the people and thank them. We need to thank Ghanaians. We need to go to almost every single person we visited during the campaign and thank that person and tell Ghanaians that yes, we had a job, we are done, and now we have given you a president. The president has taken over and is going to work for Ghanaians.
Sure.
It's not about my interest. It's not about the interest of any member of the campaign team. Now it's solely business. You deal with him as Gary, and you are dealing with him because he's the president of the Ghana Football Association, and that's where we have gotten to. So we are now shifting the gear from team game changer to the GFA president, and I think after this week we will have virtually nothing to do.
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, George, please come in here. Let's use the final 8 minutes to talk about the vice presidency. Yeah. I mean, we've seen how Ked has run his campaign and all that. First of all, do you think that, and I'll come to you, Henry, as well. I want you to wear your cloak as a general because I know you can do that neutral job. We are having a situation where the EXCO are electing the vice president.
Yeah. There
are pros and cons, because ideally, if Kurt were appointing somebody, he would obviously appoint somebody who he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
But the election means that he may get somebody who was not on his team, who does not believe in what he stands for, and so on and so forth. Do you think that the election of the vice president, the pros outweigh the cons?
Yeah, I think the pros outweigh the cons because, if you allow Kurt to choose who he wants, it's good that on one side you say they can get things done. But again, they can also relax the rules because I know you. And again, we wanted to move away from the situation or the era where the president had too much power to decide, I don't want this vice president again, I want this one again. So I think this is a great opportunity, but it could turn out to be a challenge in itself because now it's more of a contest of ideas. It's more of having to push an idea that is wholly accepted. And it means that your idea that you are pushing must be
solid,
that strong.
Yeah.
And I look at the kinds of personalities we have on the Executive Council. Every idea, whether it's coming from Kurt, whether it's coming from any member of that committee, would really go through the fire. You may want to sit down and talk about the other interests and everything, but I think that the most important thing is, where is this going? Now, the election for a vice president means that even Kurt cannot control the process.
He has one vote.
Yeah. You need one vote.
You can only lobby.
You can only lobby. And
what if they don't?
What if they don't? Yeah. So I think it's a perfect situation.
You're talking here about checks and balances.
Checks and balances. That's the first thing. Checks and balances. It could be a problem in itself on another level where if a vice president who does not necessarily believe in what Ket wants to do, is elected, then Ket would have to rely on the power of his ideas to override whatever those who don't agree with is, and that's going to be an interesting one. And so I think the executive council meetings will be very, very interesting.
It will be very hot. I love to be a fly on the wall. But Henry, I mean, as George has said, it's an argument for checks and balances, and democracy is a continuum.
Sure.
If we try this for 4 years and it doesn't work, I'm sure the Congress will, in their own wisdom, decide to go back and try and go back to
and tweak things.
So anyway, do you agree with George?
Yeah, I do. I do agree with George, and it's one of the things I discussed with him this morning.
Yeah.
And I said, he said, Charlie, I have only one vote.
Yeah, that's the point.
And Gary, I mean, the truth of the matter is that people have interest in this vice president.
It's normal.
Yeah.
It goes beyond you and I.
Of course, playing titans.
The politicians are
Everybody's
poking
interested.
their nose into it.
Yeah, sure.
And the politicians are telling you, don't go for that person. Don't go for this person. Don't go for this person.
But how
At
then
the end of
is
the
the
day-
supreme
at the end of the day-
interest of the
Absolutely.
fans?
At the end of the day,
Yes.
we also have an interest.
Yeah.
We the media.
Now, we the media. We want to have a vice president who is accessible.
Yeah.
We want to have a vice president who would probably give us what we want.
Yeah.
And-
Access.
and be available when we need him. It is the most important thing. And the politicians, so to speak, have forgotten that the president no longer has the power to choose his vice president.
Yes, remind them.
And will go through democracy. So I am reminding the politicians
Remind them,
again,
yes.
if you have something to do,
And you are
please,
calling Ket and saying, choose Asumesi. Choose Asumesi.
The man, he got only one vote.
Yeah,
oh.
just one vote.
You know, so it's interesting. I know people are interested. I know those who are interested.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's always going to be. See, and that's
Even
always going
yesterday when we were in Kumasi, yesterday when we were in Kumasi, Charlie,
You are seeing things.
Yes. Yes. It's
we
normal.
were seeing things, but it's normal, and that's exactly where we wanted our football.
Yeah.
That we will get to a point where democracy will be
Yeah.
the order of the day.
That's right.
Where the football governing body in Ghana will be responsible, will be respectful enough to look back and say, Ghanaians, this is what we have done. Ghanaians, these are the people who are serving on the executive council, and their individual roles and their contribution to the development of the game. That is where we are at this particular moment. Now, I want to hope that whoever becomes the vice president will not give us headache. That's my prayer. Whoever becomes the vice president will not give us
Please break it down. What kind of headaches?
headache. Well,
Any
headaches.
kind of headache.
We've experienced some,
Yes.
patchy moments in the past where the president feels my vice president is misbehaving.
Yeah, sure.
And so I want to get rid of him and bring in another person. Where the president feels my vice president is not.
In tune, eh?
In tune with my
or is
vision.
not in line.
Yeah.
Or so because of that, I want to get rid of him. It did not help us. We've gone through those patchy moments, and this is a new dawn. And I pray we get things right. Once we are able to elect a vice president who will be in tune with his boss and who will also respect the vision of his boss. Sometimes you
regardless
do not agree.
of who you campaign for.
Regardless of
Yeah.
who you campaign for. That
It's
is where we
difficult.
are.
I think
It's difficult,
what Henry is saying, I think that the executive council must come to a point where they decide that this is where we want to move Ghana football, and they begin to
no
ride on
individual
that.
interest.
Yeah,
has to be
that's
about
the thing.
Ghana football.
If we end up with individual interest, we're going to have issues because for individual interest, everybody has an interest.
Sure.
So the executive council may have to come to a level where they know that this is where we are going, and this is the president we have, and he's leading us towards it, so that we have less friction.
It's true.
Anyway, many thanks, George, Ado Jr. and Henry. Final question. What position are you going to have in a new administration? As a
Really?
spokesperson of the campaign team,
Yeah.
it's been widely said that you are a favorite for the communications director role.
It hasn't come up. He hasn't told me anything. Honestly speaking, yes, people are speculating, but personally, I haven't thought about.
It's been said for months.
Yeah, I know.
You haven't
People
thought
even-
about it.
People even wrote articles, and they were.
Yeah.
I see all
Infographics.
all
Yeah, infographics.
Gimmick song.
Guy won't put me into trouble. But you know what? What I will say is that we all have to respect the decision of the president.
The boss.
Yes. Once he speaks, it means we need to fall in line.
Nice one. Hopefully the game changing affects everybody in Ghana football and the entire process. Henry Asante Chum was the spokesperson of the Okraku, as he tells me, the correct pronunciation is Okraku campaign. And we will be here next week, hopefully, with more on the Joysports track. I'm Gary L. Smith. Thank you for your time.